What if your backyard could feed you, your family, and thrive for decades with hardly any effort? This isn't just gardening, it's a revolutionary way to grow food that works with nature, not against it. Discover how ancient wisdom can create a resilient, abundant food system right outside your door. I'm talking about food systems that our ancestors perfected over thousands of years. Systems that don't require constant weeding, endless watering, or expensive fertilizers. Systems that get better with age, not worse. And the crazy part? Most modern gardeners have completely forgotten these techniques even exist. Today I'm breaking down the ultimate permaculture power-up, 7 ancient food systems you can install in your backyard starting this December. Number 4 has been used for over 5,000 years and literally builds soil while it feeds you. And that bonus tip at the end? It's the secret that ties everything together and multiplies your harvest by 3. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I help everyday gardeners create food-producing systems that work smarter, not harder. And today, we're going deep into permaculture, the science of designing regenerative food systems based on how nature actually works. Here's what most people get wrong about gardening. They think it has to be hard work, tilling every year, fighting weeds, hauling water, replacing plants constantly. But that's not how nature grows food. In nature, forests thrive for centuries without anyone watering, weeding, or fertilizing them. Permaculture asks one simple question: what if we designed our backyards the same way? December is actually the perfect time to start because most of these systems need winter to establish. While everyone else is hibernating indoors, you'll be setting up food systems that produce for decades. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is all about food freedom, self-sufficiency, and working with nature instead of against it. And drop a comment telling me if you've tried any permaculture techniques before. I want to hear your experience. All right, let's start with ancient food system number 1. System number 1, the Three Sisters Guild. At number 1, we have the Three Sisters Guild, and this system is over 3,000 years old. It was developed by indigenous peoples across North and Central America, and it's pure genius. Here's how it works. You plant 3 crops together: corn, beans, and squash. But this isn't just companion planting. This is a symbiotic system where each plant supports the others. The corn grows tall and provides a natural trellis for the beans to climb. The beans fix nitrogen from the air and deposit it into the soil, feeding the corn and squash. The squash spreads out along the ground with its large, prickly leaves, shading out weeds and keeping the soil moist. Together, these 3 plants create a mini ecosystem that's far more productive than any single crop alone. What makes the Three Sisters ancient wisdom is this: indigenous farmers understood plant relationships before modern science even had words for them. They didn't know about nitrogen fixation in a lab sense, but they knew beans made corn grow better. They observed, experimented, and perfected this system over generations. How do you set this up in December? In most climates, December is planting season. Map out your Three Sisters bed now. Prepare the soil with compost and mark your planting spots. Come spring, you'll plant in this order: corn first, then beans 2 weeks later when the corn is about 6 inches tall, then squash another week after that. Space your corn in clusters, not rows. Think small circular mounds about 4 feet apart. Plant 4 to 5 corn seeds per mound. Once the corn is established, plant pole beans around the base of each stalk. Then plant squash in between the mounds. The result? 3 crops from one space. Reduced weeds because the squash shades the ground. Improved soil because the beans add nitrogen. And significantly higher yields than planting any of these crops alone. Here's the modern upgrade. Add a 4th sister. Some permaculture designers add sunflowers or amaranth as an extra support structure and an additional food crop. The system adapts and still thrives. The Three Sisters isn't just history. It's a proven, reliable system that works today just as well as it did 3,000 years ago. And it's one of the simplest entry points into permaculture thinking. System number 2, Hugelkultur beds. Coming in at number 2 is Hugelkultur, a system developed in Eastern Europe and perfected by German and Austrian farmers over centuries. The word literally means hill culture, and it's one of the most powerful soil building techniques you'll ever use. Here's the concept. Instead of building a raised bed with lumber and filling it with purchased soil, you build a mound using rotting wood as the base. You layer logs, branches, leaves, compost, and soil on top. Over time, the wood breaks down, creating a sponge-like structure that holds water, builds nutrients, and feeds your plants for years. What makes Hugelkultur ancient wisdom? For centuries, European farmers noticed that the edges of forests where fallen trees decomposed were incredibly fertile. Plants grew bigger, healthier, and required less water. So they mimicked that process intentionally by burying wood in their growing beds. Here's why this works. As wood decomposes, it acts like a sponge, soaking up water during rains and releasing it slowly during dry periods. This means less watering for you. The decomposition process also generates heat, extending your growing season in spring and fall. And as fungi and bacteria break down the wood, they release nutrients directly to plant roots. You're building soil while you grow food. December is the perfect time to build Hugelkultur beds because you need wood. And winter is when most people are pruning trees and clearing brush. Collect logs, branches, even old firewood that started to rot. The more decomposed the wood, the faster it works, but fresh wood is fine too. Here's how to build it. Dig a shallow trench about 1 to 2 feet deep and as long as you want your bed. Fill the bottom with logs and thick branches. Layer smaller branches and twigs on top. Add leaves, grass clippings, or other organic matter. Then cover everything with 6 to 12 inches of good soil or compost. The mound will be tall at first, maybe 3 to 4 feet high, but it settles over time as the wood decomposes. That's normal. You can plant directly into a Hugelkultur bed immediately, and it will just keep getting better year after year. Pro tip: use hardwoods like oak, maple, or fruit tree wood. Avoid black walnut, which contains juglone and can inhibit plant growth. Also avoid treated lumber, obviously, which contains chemicals you don't want in your food. I've seen Hugelkultur beds produce abundantly for over a decade without any additional fertilizer or compost. The wood does all the work. That's the power of working with nature's systems instead of fighting them. System number 3. Food forest layers. At number 3, we have the food forest, and this is where permaculture gets truly transformational. A food forest mimics the structure of a natural forest, but every plant is edible or useful. It's the most productive land use system humans have ever developed, and it's been practiced for over 10,000 years in tropical and temperate regions worldwide. Here's how a natural forest works. It grows in layers. Tall canopy trees at the top, smaller understory trees below them, shrubs in the middle, herbaceous plants closer to the ground, root crops underground, vines climbing up through everything, and ground covers spreading across the soil. Every layer captures sunlight and fills a niche. A food forest does the same thing, but every layer produces food. The canopy might be fruit and nut trees. The understory could be dwarf apples or persimmons. Shrubs might be blueberries, currants, or hazelnuts. Herbaceous plants could be perennial vegetables like rhubarb or sorrel. Root crops might include groundnuts or Jerusalem artichokes. Vines could be grapes or kiwis, and ground covers might be strawberries or creeping thyme. What makes this ancient wisdom? Indigenous cultures around the world, from the Amazon to Southeast Asia to the Pacific Islands, have managed food forests for thousands of years. These weren't wild jungles. They were carefully designed, highly productive systems that fed entire communities without plowing, without annual planting, and without the backbreaking labor of conventional agriculture. Modern researchers studying the Amazon rainforest have discovered that many areas once thought to be pristine wilderness are actually abandoned food forests planted by indigenous peoples centuries ago. The trees are still producing. The system is still working, even without human intervention. How do you start a food forest in December? This is perfect timing because bare root trees and perennials are available and affordable in winter. December is when you design and plant the bones of your food forest. Start small. Don't try to convert your entire backyard at once. Pick a section, maybe 20 by 20 feet, and begin there. Map out your layers. Choose a canopy tree, maybe a dwarf apple or peach. Add a nitrogen-fixing tree like autumn olive or Siberian pea shrub to feed the system. Plant berry bushes in the middle layer. Add perennial herbs and vegetables at ground level. The key to food forests is patience and observation. You're not building a garden that produces this year and dies. You're building an ecosystem that will feed your grandchildren. The first year, the trees establish roots. The second year, they grow. By year 3 or 4, you start getting small harvests. By year 7 to 10, your food forest is producing abundantly with almost no maintenance. Here's what people don't realize. Once a food forest matures, it requires less work than a lawn. No mowing, no weeding, no tilling. You just walk through and harvest. That's it. You've created a self-maintaining food system that improves with age. The most famous example in the modern world is Jeff Lawton's food forest in Jordan. He turned barren desert into a lush, productive food forest in under 4 years using these exact principles. If it works in the desert, it'll work in your backyard. System number 4, Keyhole Gardens. At number 4, we have Keyhole Gardens, a system that's been used in Africa for over 5,000 years and is now spreading across the world because it's so incredibly efficient. Here's the concept. A keyhole garden is a round raised bed with a composting basket in the center. The bed has a wedge-shaped path cut into it, like a slice of pie, so you can walk into the center to add compost and reach all your plants. As you feed the compost basket, nutrients leach out into the surrounding soil, feeding your crops continuously. What makes this ancient wisdom? Keyhole gardens were developed in regions where water is scarce, soil is poor, and people needed maximum food production from minimal space. The design solves all 3 problems at once. The raised bed keeps plants above poor or compacted soil. The central compost basket recycles kitchen scraps and turns them into fertilizer right where you need it. The circular shape maximizes growing space while minimizing the path area. And the whole system holds moisture incredibly well because the compost basket acts like a wick, distributing water evenly throughout the bed. In Africa, keyhole gardens are built using local stones stacked in a circular wall about 3 feet high and 6 to 8 feet in diameter. The center has a vertical basket made from sticks or wire mesh. Every day, people add kitchen scraps, plant trimmings, and even gray water to the basket. As it breaks down, nutrients seep into the soil, and the garden produces year-round. How do you build one in December? This is perfect winter work because you're building structure, not planting yet. You can use stones, bricks, concrete blocks, or even urbanite, which is recycled broken concrete. Mark a circle about 6 to 8 feet across. Leave a wedge-shaped opening like cutting a slice of pie about 2 feet wide. Build your walls about 2 to 3 feet high. In the center, install a compost basket using wire mesh or a large basket with holes. Fill the bed with layers, cardboard or newspaper at the bottom to suppress weeds. Then alternate layers of brown material like leaves or straw with green material like grass clippings or kitchen scraps. Top it off with 6 inches of good soil or compost. As you use your keyhole garden, keep feeding the center basket. Add coffee grounds, vegetable scraps, eggshells, grass clippings, anything compostable. Water it occasionally, and the nutrients will leach into your growing bed. You're creating a continuous fertility cycle. Keyhole gardens are especially perfect for people with mobility issues. Because of the wedge-shaped path, you can reach every plant without bending over or walking around the entire bed. It's accessible, efficient, and productive. Modern permaculture designers have adapted keyhole gardens for every climate. In cold regions, they're often built with insulated walls to extend the season. In wet regions, drainage layers are added. The basic design is ancient, but it adapts perfectly to modern needs. Hey, quick pause. If you're getting value from this, do me a huge favor and hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube this content matters, and it helps us reach more people who want to grow their own food sustainably. And seriously, drop a comment below. Tell me which of these systems you're most excited to try. I read every single comment, and your feedback shapes the videos I make. Alright, let's keep going because the next 3 systems are game changers. System number 5, Wicking Beds. Coming in at number 5, we have Wicking Beds, a system developed in ancient Persia over 2,000 years ago and now considered one of the most water-efficient growing methods in the world. Here's the concept. A wicking bed is a raised bed with a water reservoir at the bottom. The water wicks up through the soil via capillary action, keeping the root zone consistently moist without ever watering from the top. You fill the reservoir every week or 2, and the plants water themselves. What makes this ancient wisdom? Persian engineers developed underground irrigation systems called qanats to bring water to desert regions. They understood that water moves through soil naturally and that plants pull moisture from below, not just from above. Wicking beds apply this same principle in a backyard setting. Here's why wicking beds are revolutionary. They use up to 70% less water than traditional gardens because there's no evaporation and no runoff. The water goes directly to the roots where it's needed. Plants grow healthier because the moisture level is constant. There's no wet-dry cycle that stresses plants. And you spend way less time watering. How do you build a wicking bed in December? Winter is perfect because you're constructing the bed, not growing yet. You need a waterproof container, a water reservoir layer, a barrier, and soil. Here's the simplest method. Use a large container like a livestock water trough or build a wooden bed lined with pond liner. At the bottom, create a water reservoir using gravel, perlite, or even upside-down plastic bottles. This layer should be about 8 to 12 inches deep. Install a vertical pipe that reaches from the reservoir to above the soil surface. This is your fill pipe. On top of the reservoir, lay a barrier like landscape fabric or shade cloth. This keeps the soil from washing down into the reservoir but allows water to wick up. On top of the barrier, add your growing soil, at least 12 inches deep. To water, pour water into the fill pipe until the reservoir is full. You'll see water come up to the top of the pipe, then leave it. The soil will wick moisture up to the roots, and your plants will thrive. Refill the reservoir when it's empty, usually every 1 to 2 weeks depending on weather and what you're growing. Wicking beds are perfect for water-restricted areas, for people who travel and can't water regularly, or for anyone who just wants to reduce the time spent watering. Once your system is set up, it's incredibly low maintenance. Modern adaptations include using recycled IBC totes, which are large industrial containers that make perfect wicking beds. Cut them in half, install the reservoir system, and you've got 2 huge growing spaces that water themselves. The beauty of wicking beds is that they bring ancient desert wisdom into modern backyards. You're working with water the way nature designed it to move, not fighting against it. System number 6, Mandala Gardens. At number 6, we have Mandala Gardens, a design system rooted in ancient Hindu and Buddhist traditions and adapted by permaculture designers worldwide. Here's the concept. A mandala garden is a series of concentric circles radiating out from a central point, usually a water source or compost pile. The design is both beautiful and functional. Plants are arranged by height, water needs, and harvest frequency, with the most frequently harvested crops closest to the center and perennials on the outer rings. What makes this ancient wisdom? Mandala designs have been used in sacred geometry and temple gardens for thousands of years. They represent wholeness, cycles, and interconnection. When applied to food gardens, the circular design maximizes edge space, which is where the most biodiversity and productivity happens in nature. In permaculture, edges are gold. The edge of a forest and a meadow is more productive than either alone. The edge of a pond is more biodiverse than open water or dry land. Circular mandala gardens create maximum edge, which means more microclimates, more planting opportunities, and higher overall yields. How do you design a mandala garden in December? Start with a central hub. This could be a small pond, a compost bin, a keyhole garden basket, or even just a sitting area. From there, design concentric rings. Ring 1, closest to the center, annual vegetables that you harvest frequently. Lettuce, herbs, greens. Ring 2, shorter perennials like strawberries, alpine strawberries, or low-growing herbs. Ring 3, medium-height plants like tomatoes, peppers, or perennial vegetables. Ring 4, taller perennials like sunflowers, asparagus, or berry bushes. Outer ring, nitrogen-fixing plants, medicinal herbs, or pollinator plants. You can also divide the mandala into wedges, like slices of pie, and dedicate each wedge to a different plant family or use. 1 wedge for salad greens, 1 for cooking herbs, 1 for root crops, and so on. The paths between rings are mulched heavily, creating comfortable walking access and reducing weeds. The result is a garden that's beautiful, productive, and easy to navigate. What makes mandala gardens powerful is the psychological effect. When your garden is beautiful, you spend more time in it. You notice problems earlier, you harvest more often, and you feel more connected to your food. That's not woo-woo. That's practical permaculture design. Beauty and function work together. December is perfect for laying out mandala patterns. Use stakes and string to mark your circles. Prepare the soil now, and by spring, you'll have a stunning, productive garden that grows more food per square foot than traditional row planting. System number 7, swales and berms. And finally, at number 7, we have swales and berms, one of the most powerful water harvesting techniques ever developed and used by ancient civilizations from Zimbabwe to the Middle East. Here's the concept. A swale is a shallow ditch dug along the contour of a slope. It catches rainwater and allows it to soak into the ground slowly instead of running off. The soil excavated from the swale is piled on the downhill side, creating a berm, which is a raised mound. You plant trees, shrubs, and perennial crops on the berm, and they're fed by the water collected in the swale. What makes this ancient wisdom? Ancient farmers in arid regions understood that water is life. In places where rainfall is scarce or seasonal, capturing every drop is essential. Swales were dug by hand thousands of years ago, and entire food systems were built around them. In Zimbabwe, the ruins of ancient terraced swales still exist, showing how sophisticated these systems were. In the Middle East, swale-like systems supported olive groves and orchards for centuries. In Australia, permaculture pioneer P.A. Yeomans adapted these ancient techniques into modern swale design, and now they're used worldwide. Here's why swales work. Water runs downhill and takes soil, nutrients, and organic matter with it. That's erosion. Swales stop that process. They catch the water, slow it down, and let it sink into the ground where plant roots can access it. The berm becomes incredibly fertile because it's constantly hydrated from below. How do you install swales in December? This is heavy work, but winter is ideal because the ground is often softer and you're not disturbing growing plants. First, you need to find the contour of your land. A contour is a line of equal elevation. Water flows perpendicular to the contour, so swales are dug along the contour to intercept that flow. You can use a cheap laser level, a water level made from clear tubing, or even an app on your smartphone to find contours. Once you've marked your contour line, dig a shallow trench along it. Swales are usually 1 to 2 feet deep, 3 to 6 feet wide, and as long as your space allows. The bottom of the swale should be level, not sloped. This ensures water spreads evenly along the entire length. Pile the excavated soil on the downhill side to create a berm. This berm can be 2 to 4 feet high and as wide as you want. Plant the berm immediately with trees, shrubs, or deep-rooted perennials. Their roots will stabilize the berm and access the water stored in the swale. The first time it rains, your swale will fill with water. That water will slowly infiltrate into the ground, recharging your soil like a sponge. Your plants on the berm will thrive with minimal watering because they're tapping into that underground reservoir. Swales are especially powerful in dry climates, but they work everywhere. Even in wet climates, swales prevent erosion, reduce runoff, and create microclimates where you can grow plants that normally wouldn't survive. I've seen swales turn barren hillsides into productive orchards in just a few years. The water that used to wash away is now feeding trees. That's working with nature, not against it. All right, I promised you a bonus tip, and this is the secret that ties all of these systems together and multiplies their effectiveness. Here it is. Stack functions. In permaculture, every element should serve multiple purposes. A tree isn't just a tree. It's food, it's shade, it's a windbreak, it's a trellis, it's habitat for beneficial insects, it's a source of mulch. When you stack functions, you get exponential returns. Here's how to apply this to the systems we've covered. Let's say you're building a food forest. Don't just plant fruit trees. Plant nitrogen-fixing trees alongside them to feed the system. Add a swale uphill to capture water and direct it to the trees. Use the berm as a mandala garden with concentric rings of plants around each tree. Install a keyhole garden at the center of your mandala for continuous fertility. Plant a Three Sisters Guild in the open spaces between trees. Suddenly, you're not running 7 separate systems. You're running one integrated system where each part supports the others. The swale feeds the food forest. The food forest provides material for the keyhole garden. The keyhole garden feeds nearby plants. The Three Sisters Guild fills gaps and adds diversity. Everything connects. That's what ancient food systems understood. Nature doesn't do monocultures. Nature stacks, layers, and integrates. When you design your backyard the same way, you create resilience. If one crop fails, 5 others are still producing. If one system struggles, others compensate. Here's the practical takeaway. Don't just copy these systems blindly. Observe your space. Ask yourself, what does my land need? Where does water flow? Where's the sun? Where's the shade? Then choose the systems that fit your unique situation and combine them intelligently. That's the ultimate permaculture power-up. Not just installing ancient systems, but understanding the principles behind them and adapting them to your backyard. That's how you create a food system that feeds you for decades with minimal effort. So there you have it. 7 ancient food systems that can transform your backyard into a productive, resilient, self-maintaining food paradise. We covered the Three Sisters Guild, Hugelkultur beds, food forests, Keyhole Gardens, Wicking Beds, Mandala Gardens, and Swales and Berms. Every single one of these systems is thousands of years old, battle-tested, and proven to work. December 2025 is your time to start. While everyone else is waiting for spring, you're building the foundations of a food system that will still be feeding your family in 2045. That's the power of working with nature instead of against it. If this video inspired you, hit that subscribe button right now and ring the notification bell. This channel is dedicated to helping you grow more food with less effort using proven, sustainable methods. And drop a comment below telling me which system you're starting with. I want to hear your plans. Remember, you don't need a huge property to do this. You don't need a fortune, you just need to start. Pick one system, install it this winter, and watch it work. Then add another, then another. Before you know it, you've created something truly special. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Now get outside and start building your ancient food system. The future is growing in your backyard.